Hello and welcome to Conversation with Priya. And today is our special guest, Daniel Russell. So, Daniel Russell is an experienced chief executive officer with a demonstrated history of working in the marketing and advertising industry, skilled in search engine optimization, digital strategy, and many aspects of marketing, I would say. So, a strong business development professional with the postgraduate certificate in decision making or leaders focus in leadership from London Business School. He is the managing director at Jolo Digital, Australia's fastest growing call tracking solutions company, providing bleeding edge insight into digital advertising spend and optimization, specializing in inbound number, including 13, 1300, 1800, and local geographic numbers, as well as advanced technology solution. Jolo Digital is able to offer client real data and call analytic insight. They can use and maximize their advertising spend, whatever you call management needs are. Jolo Digital got the goods. So he knows what he is doing, and he is very passionate about this profession, especially inbound and outbound marketing. And his specialization, his company's specialization is actually making a lot of difference in telecom industry and calling industry. So help me to welcome today Daniel Russell. Hello and welcome to my show, Daniel. Thank you for accepting my request.
Oh, my pleasure. No, it's fantastic to meet with you today. I'm really excited. I think there's lots of valuable stuff we can impart on your viewers, and should be really exciting.
Thank you. And we are very, very excited, and we were looking forward for your, appointment. And it is real pleasure to have you here. So before we jump into the very detail, I would like to know how your whole journey started, especially with the Jolo.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, great. So I've always been more telco skewed in my professional career, and I was, I was quite senior in Telstra, and then went to another player in the call tracking market, and I just really saw a niche that no one was out there, and they were actually a lot of the fundamental architecture of how these systems work was based on legacy, and it hadn't really evolved with the internet's progression. Yeah. And so we saw a great opportunity to visualize data in a much better way and get much more insightful views of what's actually happening in a real user environment. So in 2015, I broke away from the company that I worked with, and I invested in Jolo Digital, and we've been running, we had some early success and picked up some really great customers, all of which are still with us, which is fantastic, 6 years on. And we've really just progressed the company from focusing on call tracking now into the evolution of voice transcription, and actually getting a sentiment analysis in terms of was the outcome a positive or negative scenario, and really starting to get a deeper level understanding of voice, because voice is so important in a conversion metric.
Yeah, I mean, your tonality and your voice texture tells you where exactly your answer is coming from, isn't it? It's going into a very much sentimental and psychological impact of the human behavior.
Yeah, well, I mean that's true, because it's something, and as nerdy as it may be, I get excited about this. I get excited about data, the actual insights that you can start to get and pull out of the system is really hugely valuable for a CFO or CEO level, where you can actually start to say, well, I'm spending. So the great thing now is marketing's getting a seat at the big table. We actually can quantify what you're spending on advertising, what that's going to relate in real sales 6-12 months down the line. So with that understanding, we saw an opportunity to really empower CEOs and provide that kind of visualization and give the credibility to ad spends, because it's becoming an increasingly important part of any business.
Yeah, and see, this majority of CEOs and CTOs wants to know where their ROI, where revenue growth is going, how is spending, how it is coming, and where we are spending, and what is the right channel to spend, and knowing the human behavior with including the human sentiment. The data will be the amazing outcome for any company, any decision maker, I believe.
Yes.
And I really love isn't it a best customer satisfaction testimony that you have retainers and they are still with you for after few years?
Yeah. Well, that's the great. Yeah. So that's one thing that really sets us apart in the industry. There are a few people out there that provide call tracking solutions. Excuse me. And they're very much a set and forget type of scenario, because we've been doing it for so long and we've got such a legacy in the telco industry, and we've worked across so many different advertising campaigns in different verticals, from anything you could think of. It really sort of adds weight and gives passion to what we're doing, and I guess why we're so enthusiastic about call tracking.
For sure. Your passion shows in your work. That brings to my first question to you here. What is the importance of call tracking? How business can benefit from call tracking and how it works actually?
Yeah, great. So that's an excellent question. So I guess most importantly, we should start off with how it works, or what call tracking is. So fundamentally what it is we're a telco. We route a phone call through to a business. We do it exactly the same as a Telstra or an Optus. But what call tracking is, it's actually imparting a huge rich amount of data around that telephone carriage from one point to the other. So we're enriching the information from a phone call. So that's fundamentally what call tracking is. So, and specifically what that means is we can now attribute a phone call back to the exact individual that actually went to your website. We can determine that they came in, say, through an AdWords campaign. We can tell you the exact campaign ID of that particular individual. We can tell you the exact ad creative they saw or ad copy they saw. We can tell you what they typed into. So the idea is you can get a huge insight into the user. Why that's important is because people clicking through to your website converted about a 1 to 2% scenario, whereas phone calls, people are actually much further down the purchasing funnel. They've got a conversion rate of about 50% for some of our high-end clients. So what call tracking actually does is it gives you information, not just from a website perspective. It does capture all of that, but it gets people when they're far more purchase ready. And so the idea is to really work out what's the profile of that person that's going to buy from you. So stop wasting money on the ones that aren't interested. Let's look at the ones that are really ready to go.
Yeah. And that's where you actually want to focus, where people are actually ready to go. And that's where your true value comes from, because first thing first, the customer has to be mentally ready and be aware what is going to happen throughout the journey.
And we actually see that a lot. We see the profile of keywords and the media consumption when they are further down the purchasing funnel is quite different from that investigation stage or that early sort of search. It really depends on the industry and the type of purchase, but there is a unique difference, and capturing that is tremendously valuable, because businesses and more businesses are spending more of their budgets on online advertising, and it's really, unfortunately, most businesses have a scattergun approach. They just throw money at all different sources, hope it sticks, don't really have an idea of what's happening. If the phone's ringing, that's brilliant. We can actually give huge insight into that and actually tell them, well, LinkedIn's fantastic. That's great. Let's continue with that. AdWords is failing. Maybe we need to rejig that. SEO as a strategy isn't producing the results. All of that is quantifiable with hard metrics.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that there are always a short-term and a long-term goal. No matter what channel you are using, you need to know which can be actually setting you for the long-term and which is, short-term. And also it's all about, not about just getting the lead. It's also about, in marketing, it's about setting your brand positioning as well, right? So something you have to set a different goal and different purpose towards that. And then once you get that clarity charted laid down in front of you, then okay, I'm going to use this channel for this purpose and this one for another purpose. And then once you are focusing on the purpose to getting the call and receiving the lead, I think that's where you should know definitely what is your ROI. Whatever.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the positioning part that you touched on there, excuse me, is really important, because brands just throw all this advertising out there and don't really have an idea of what's resulting from it.
Yeah.
So now we actually have something we've been working on for quite some time, which is around artificial intelligence and voice transcriptions. Right. So in real time, we can actually tell whether it's a positive or negative call outcome. So the really important thing there for positioning is we've found through previous client studies is the wrong kind of advertising can exactly do that. They can position the brand poorly. So to actually look at the sentiment of those people that are purchase ready and at the end of the funnel, we've got far more information now.
Yeah, and when we were discussing earlier offline on that, like I really got excited about it because all paid advertising platforms are offering that negative keywords and all that concept, but majority of advertising industry and campaign makers are not considering that negative part of it. And of course, it is becoming not majority of company I have met have considered in the negative aspects of in your voice call and, voice observation. So that was very interesting to me,
There's some really interesting stuff that we're seeing out of it. And we can actually pre-program the system to have negative words from our side of things. And we can actually score and highlight certain keywords to be much more powerful.
Yeah. That is interesting part of it. So that brings to my next question. What advice can you give to all business owners that are looking for call tracking solution service, and why is your company is the best choice for them?
Yeah, fantastic. I love that. So why are we the best? So there's a few different players out there, and they all provide largely an undifferentiated solution. But where we really position ourselves differently and why we think we're the best is largely down to our experience. It's a high touch model. You can use a call tracking platform that gives you some insights into keywords and different things like that, and even some sentiment analysis. But that's all pretty useless. It's like me setting up my own AdWords campaign. I would have pretty poor results. Yet if I went to an expert in that field, insights are limitless. So basically why we're different, why we handhold the customer through the whole journey. We've been in this industry for over 10 years, working in 6 years independently, that we've consulted across so many campaigns. We've actually imparted insights. We've had increases of up to 37% in one instance, where we're actually able to impact their campaign that positively just through these insights. So yes, you can get some basics out of it, similarly what you can do with Google Analytics, but it's really about that hand-holding, working with agencies, regularly meeting with them, talking about what value they're trying to get out of it, and then telling them what the data means, because there is so much there to absorb that you need an expert to talk you through it. And that's our positioning. That's why we think we're the best.
And see, majority of people have this complaint I've been hearing when people are talking to their agencies, and there are a lot of people still looking for hand holding. They want more attention. And that's where we can actually embrace the Omni effect. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, I would. So we've taken that. That's the main reason why we exist and we're so successful, is because it's a confusing landscape out there. There's so many different platforms. There's so much information. They need people like us that are actually going to help them navigate, and who have done it hundreds of times with big and small brands alike. So that's why it is so critical. And that's why we think it's so important to really focus on that.
Yeah, bring that aspects on that. Yeah, for sure. So having said that, I'm just saying, what does call tracking help SEM, and how call tracking solution tracks and associate call conversation to the online activities?
Great. So that's basically the fundamentals of our solution, is around paid advertising. So we're all about optimizing advertising. So one, for increasing conversions, and two, for increasing lifetime value of customers. So we know that we can actually decrease the cost in actually acquiring a customer. Yeah. And excuse me, just one second. Yeah, so twofold. Sorry about that. So we can actually reduce the cost of getting a customer. We can mean you're much more effective with the same advertising budget. Other reasons why people use us too is is an operational side of things. So SEM is critical. We can tell you what platform it came from, what you're spending on. One particular thing for SEM, it's probably worth noting, and I apologize if I get a bit too techie here, but a lot of people are just bidding on broad campaigns. And a lot of your users will know this. What our system actually does is it tells you the exact phrase that someone typed into a search engine. So what that means is instead of spending 5 times the budget on broad matches, you can actually go through and identify all the exact matches, and you can keep your costs much lower. So that's one of the true beauties of our system. Out of just SEM alone, one of the other key drivers for us is just businesses miss a lot of phone calls. On average, about 7% of all phone calls are missed. And that's just in day-to-day operations. We've got a few little mechanisms there that can actually start increasing that. So we can shoot you an urgent email every time you miss a phone call. We can send the customer an SMS if you've missed that phone call, saying someone will call you back within 15 minutes. And then that really minimizes churn. So it's a bit of a multifaceted approach. One, we're looking at the operational aspect. Now we can improve the customer experience. But 2, we're looking at that hardcore SEM side of things and your online advertising and optimizing that as much as possible. And then really, because they are the purchase-ready people, having the right kind of internal people to manage that too, when we know that they're a higher-end value.
Very, very interesting, because a lot of people are missing call, and there are many customer complaints that nobody picks up the phone. And that actually, every call you miss, you lose the trust,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And just the cost to get that phone call too is tremendous, let alone the fact that they're already, you're right. They do lose the trust. It's
Like, look at us as a consumer. If you want to avail a service or want to buy a product, and we want to reach out to ask question, and if call is missed out a couple of times, forget it. You lose the whole customer and you lose the trust. And it's old saying that once you lose, like you lose 1%, you lose 10% with you. Right.
I couldn't agree more. And I mean, I guess we've all been a little bit preoccupied with online and online clicks and websites, but the true value is in the phone call and that engagement with people.
And majority of people are started missing these days. Like, they don't want to put the phone number on the website.
No, exactly. So that's actually something we've encouraged against. I mean, ours is really a tremendously affordable solution. We just bill at the regular rates of a Telstra Optus, if not cheaper. So it's not call cost prohibitive. You're paying for the costs already. You just suddenly now you can have all this extra business and insights and stop missing calls and all the good stuff.
Yeah, great. So, and I notice it's not because of cost. Some of my businesses, they are not missing calls because they don't want to put the phone number on the website because they don't want to be disturbed. And I'm thinking the business is all about being connected, being available. So at least open up for the office hours for your communication. If you can't do it, ask somebody else to pick that call. So that is the solution people should look at. It's just deviating, but it's a very important aspect. People should not ignore the phone call and reachability to your consumer. That will bring an additional trust on you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the expectation now is that we have to be more customer centric in our approach. So we have to give them a chat window. We have to give them a phone number. We have to give them some kind of immediacy with their interaction with the business, or they're going to move on to another business. And so this is something we've identified and we're trying to work in with. Yeah.
And that brings to my last question. Some call tracking solution offer nice reporting platform, but very little by the way of actual self-service. How self-service is your platform?
Yeah. So good question. So tremendously, we have a full self-service portal, but really what's the difference is we've got it tiered into different user levels. So you've got your administration level that can do everything. They can build an IVR, they can order new numbers, they can have an SMS that's sent out when the call's missed. They can generate the JavaScript to put on their website. They can do everything. Then we have tiered down below that. We have managers and users, and they can, on a cascading level, they can see less and less. So some just get access to the data, some get access to the whole ecosystem that we've created and the ability to do everything. So although we've tried to do like a self-service and a really high-functioning self-service, it does still come back to that little bit of the hand-holding side of things and getting insights out of the data and meaningful insights. So we try and blur the line there a little bit between a really high-end self-service solution, especially for the ones that we've already worked with and upskilled, versus that hand-holding process, which really sets us apart from the other players.
Interesting. Because I always say that, your customer satisfaction starts with your better reporting. A lot of customers are unsatisfied because you are not reporting sufficient, or you are not maintaining, I would say, jargon word is a transparency, right? So if you're not maintaining enough transparency, you're not visible, you're not giving enough data, it's okay. It's going to be really backfiring you. And, most of the people I have noticed, either they send a very big report or they send a very small report. And I always say that summarize and then you give the big report so that, the people in disk profiling, if the director type of personality is there, you can get that bullet points. And if the person is in a detail kind of a person, they can have a look on the detail side. So
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And I mean, that's one of the big things for us is, and I guess it continues on from this self-service, is it's the convergence of data, pushing the data into all these different ecosystems. So that's one of when I mentioned in the beginning, we saw an opportunity in the market that people hadn't done it correctly. There's a huge ecosystem of different platforms and portals and agency software and everything out of there. And we could send through, as you say, we could send through a massive report and no one would probably look at it. But what our focus has been, integrating that data into platforms and systems that you're using every day. So on your smaller agency side of things, we've got an integration into agency analytics. On the larger side of things, we can go into the Adobe suite. We can scrape AdWords. We can do the whole shebang. So it's about meaningful insights in a digestible form and a platform you're familiar with. So that's why we've tried to create like a self-service platform with a big touch on everything else, but then bringing back our own personal layer to really make meaningful insights out of it, because we live in a fractured data society now, and it's really hard to make the most out of that. And so that's our positioning in the market.
Yeah, and data doesn't lie, so it has all. Yeah.
Isn't it fantastic? I love it. Yeah.
Data doesn't lie. If it is collected properly, it won't lie. You will get all inside. So before you go to all decision makers and CTOs and CEOs, what would you like to send a message today?
I just don't get caught up in the hype of it's all about just an online journey. It's all about converting on the website. We've seen it time and time again that those meaningful conversations and the highest value customers come through an actual voice conversation, and that sort of traditional mechanism. You just can't build up the rapport through an online engagement, even with web chat. So for really getting the best value out of your business and making the most, I think businesses need to have a combined strategy of voice and click. Yeah,
for sure. And, maybe it's high time to embrace every single aspects of technology,
Yes.
Well, Universe was preparing for us for this kind of a crisis management solution, and we should be ready and use it as much as possible. And it's going to change the whole world. Of course, there is challenges we are definitely facing right now, but these challenges are going to come and go. But we should be ready for all these kind of a future crisis management situation. Being a business owner, challenges, this is too big, but you never know what kind of a challenge is coming in the future. So we should be prepared. And what else we can do? That technology like Julu, Zoom, and all those technologies are actually making our life easy. And you don't need, like long time ago, Gandhi talked about global village,
Yep.
And we are living in a global village where people know if you want to be known.
Yes, absolutely. No, I mean that's one of the big things that we've focused on is the global footprint. So the whole nature of our phone calls is we can route them to any number. So you could be, I could ring your local number or your 1-300 number, and you could be sitting on a beach in Cuba, and the customer would have no idea about the difference. We can get all that rich data that I mentioned previously without any issues. We can mirror your execution in India as well as Australia, and we can have a website there which is tracking all the locally attributed advertising, and we can have a separate one here, and then we can correlate the data. So it really is an international game, and I guess it's quite exciting in that we've got the flexibility to work from home, but then that's also opened up the flexibility for global travel and business opportunities and expansion without necessarily the investment that's required. So through Zoom, through call technologies like ourselves, where we can set up people anywhere in the world, you can have a global footprint, which is exciting without the cost.
Interesting. And as long as you are servicing it, there is no limit, right?
No limit, no. So we got data centers everywhere. There's no latency in any call connection or anything like that. So it's exciting times. Because
and good thing is that it's an Australian-based company, and we do compliant with the GDPR, isn't it, Julu? Julu complies with the GDPR compliance in this very interesting aspect as well in that. For the Thank you so much for your time today, Daniel, and it was interesting. All your details will be given on the description below, and please reach out to Daniel. He's very active on LinkedIn and other platform as well, but specifically on LinkedIn, because you'll find him in a very professional approach there. So I'll recommend to go. Thank you for joining in today, audience, and we will be looking forward to you next show in our next episode. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. No, it's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate it so much. Lovely to talk to you.
Bye for now.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done it. To know more about us, visit www.corporality.global. And also you can find more about Priya Mishra is on priya.sydney.